As frustrating as a loss as that was to open the Kansas City series, I like living in a world where frustrating losses doesn't mean the sky is falling. I have to admit.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Guardians, whatever day it is you are listening. Thank you for tuning in and making us your first listen, wherever it is you get podcasts. I want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Guardians is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals, maybe even Kansas City. Check out Booking.com for your stay. We're going to get into that frustrating loss. It was a frustrating loss for a lot of reasons. That has to do with the loss itself, but also has to do with the loss, what it means for the rest of the weekend, even though the sky isn't falling. We'll just talk about a little bit about those things in that game. The Guardians reportedly signed Matt Boyd, pitcher, 33-year-old left-handed pitcher, formerly of Detroit, on Thursday. We haven't had official confirmation of that yet, but we'll talk about what they're thinking there. We'll talk about the current injury and situation and roster situation, and we'll talk about the latest mock draft as well. Thank you guys for tuning in all week. It's been a fun week as I've been hosting solo and Jeff is on vacation. I am Justin Ladd. If you're new here or you're not, maybe you do know me, but I've been covering the Guardians farm system since 2007 for various outlets. I am currently doing so at the News Herald and the Morning Journal in Cleveland. I also have my own newsletter, Next Year in Cleveland, which you can sign up for at nextyearincleveland.substack.com. And I'm also an occasional contributor to Prospects Live. And this, of course, is Locked On Guardians. We are your daily Cleveland Guardians podcast. We dive into all of the goings-on the Guardians every day, the majors, the minors, and, of course, the draft. So you're here to get your daily fix of Cleveland Guardians discussion, and you're in the right place. We are happy to have you. Win or lose, frustrated or not, things are still good. You know, it's nice, and they lost 2 in a row. And not necessarily a big deal losing 2 in a row. I got a quick shout out to an everydayer who found me on Twitter. I got to find the name. It's been a while. I had a lot of tweets today. So if you're following me on Twitter, I do apologize. I've been tweeting a lot today. Rory Noonan said he's an everydayer. Reached out, wanted to talk about Andres Gimenez. I will get to the mailbag questions probably on Monday night for Tuesday's show. So I have all those saved from last week when we thought there was going to be rain out of Baltimore. Gets all that. Let's start off today with the frustrating loss to Kansas City. A lot of reasons to be frustrated. But again, as I said, it's nice that you can be frustrated by 2 straight losses, especially the way they lost this game, and still not be bothered. Because there were a lot of factors that went into this loss, and some of them weren't good, but maybe some of them ended up not being that big of a deal because things could swing very easily. This was a winnable game for the Guardians. That's the first thing that was frustrating. It was a winnable game. They were 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. They had the bases loaded twice. You had Stephen Kwan up with the bases loaded. And you even had it against the Royals bullpen. He just couldn't come through. And look, the Royals bullpen's one of the worst in baseball. And you had chances to beat him there. You had chances to beat Michael Wacha. They had 9 base runners against Michael Wacha. They had 2 walks, which was Freeman. Well, Freeman got hit by a pitch. You had Bo Naylor and Andres Gimenez who both walked that inning. That was the first time they left the bases loaded. That was frustrating. And then later on against Sam Long in the bullpen. And again, the Royals bullpen 432. That's 22nd worst. It's 22nd in baseball, so the 8th worst in baseball coming into this game. So you had chances, you didn't come up with it. And as we always say, hitting with runners in scoring position is very cyclical. So if you're someone who believes that it's a skill or whatever, it's not. It's cyclical. Sometimes you get a hit with runners on, sometimes you don't. The Guardians as a team had 7 hits tonight. 1 of them came with runners in scoring position. You know, they had 6 chances with runners in scoring position. Or, I'm sorry, 5. Or was that 6? That's 5 for the Royals. 5. The Royals had even less chances, and they scored 2 runs. That's just how baseball goes sometimes. You got to hit the ball with runners in scoring position. But I think not beating the Kansas City pen is frustrating, especially when you had chances against both their bullpen and Michael Wacha early in the game. You had chances, you didn't capitalize on it. You know, like we said, runners in scoring position is a cyclical thing. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not. The other thing I don't like about this loss is dropping Ben Lively's start. He pitched a really good game. 6 innings, 2 runs allowed, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, 6 hits overall. So we allowed 7 base runners. I'm sorry, 8 if you include the hit by pitch to to Michael Massey. He was good over 6 innings. 8 base runners probably equates to 2 or 3 runs. So, chances are he might have got a little bit lucky too, but he also got unlucky because the defense let him down. Unfortunately, I've been wrong about Daniel Schneemann, and he's been hitting, he's been contributing, just didn't have a great night in right field. He made one bad play. I think Will Brennan makes that play. I don't think anybody else in the Guardians roster currently makes that play. I think Will Brennan's the only one. I'm not saying it was an easy play, but it's a play that needs to be made. And I think Will Brennan makes it because he's a good defender out there. He's the regular, whereas Schneemann is not. Noel isn't making that play. Fry is not making that play. Gabby Arias isn't making that play. It's just basically Brennan and nobody else. It's a difficult ball coming right at you, but it's got to be made. It's unfortunate that inning went the way it did, and that cost the Guardians the game because they didn't hit with runners in scoring position. They didn't execute like they should have, and that's what's frustrating. I just don't love dropping the lively start for this reason. You have Kristen McKenzie and Logan Allen both going in the series. They're both pitching poorly right now. Allen had the bad start at Baltimore. Before that, he was okay. Wasn't great. He was kind of getting by. He had put back-to-back starts together that were actually, he survived. I think he was maybe finding a way to get through some starts where he didn't have his best stuff. And then the Baltimore series came and they just hit everything in sight. For once, he wasn't nibbling and everything was being hit. So the Royals offense hasn't been great lately. I know they scored 5 runs in the 9th inning or the 8th inning against the Marlins on Wednesday, the finale of that series. And they only scored 2 off the Guardians, and really it was because of defensive miscues. They didn't really deserve to score more than that because they only had 5 chances of running in scoring position. The Guardians were good about keeping them off the bases. So really, this game should have been 1-1 or 1-0 Guardians. Really, so you gave them a free win basically because of bad defense and I don't know, maybe a little bit of jet lag, but I just don't like the idea. A split's not a big deal in this series. I mean, look, the Guardians have a really nice cushion against the Royals. That's why we're sitting here talking about this game frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. We're not falling off a cliff. Even if the Guardians somehow get swept in the series, which I don't think will happen, your lead is down to 5 games over the Royals and would be down to maybe 4 for the Twins. You're still going to be in first place at the end of the series going into an off day Monday. Not the end of the world. And I don't think they'll get swept, so it won't be that big of a deal. But, this would be a chance to win the series, really put the Royals further back of you, and just keep going out and playing good. Not even look at the standings, just going out and keeping the momentum going. A split here would be ideal, but it's going to be tougher now because, again, now you've got to win a McKenzie and an Allen start. And, they did win Allen start at Baltimore because they hit a lot. So it's not like it's impossible to do. And again, the Royals offense is really nothing to write home about right now. But, Logan Allen's still got to come out and pitch well at the very least. You can't just go out there and expect them to dominate or even throw up a quality start just because they've been struggling. This is the big leagues. Everything's hard. There are no easy wins. We've seen that against the White Sox. But, those are 2 spots in the rotation right now that are really tough for you. And they've been winning those starts because of the offense and the bullpen, thankfully. But you only want to test that theory so many times before you would like to get a quality start. The bullpen's still in good shape. I mean, you used Gaddis. You used Tim Herron. Tim Herron, by the way, was awesome in this game. He looked great. He was pounding the strike zone. So you only used 2 relievers, which is good. And Gaddis only threw 8 pitches, so he's nice and rested. No Cade Smith, no Emmanuel Clase, no Sam Henches. All those guys got a breather again for the 2nd day in a row. So your bullpen is good to go, which is good. So because you have Allen and McKenzie going in the series, although you don't have back-to-back. And McKenzie tomorrow or on Friday, which is good. And then Saturday, you got the ace off, Bybee and Reagans. That's going to be a tough one to win. Reagans has been great. And then Sunday, you got to go Allen versus Lugo, which is a mismatch because Lugo's been great. I know they beat him last time in Cleveland, but, Allen versus Lugo is going to be a tough one. We'll see what happens. So would have liked to have won that game with how well Bybee pitched. I'm not sorry, Bybee Lively pitched, and the Royals just didn't have a chance. You had chances to win, and you got into you did well against Waka, and you did well. You had chances against the bullpen as well, and you didn't come through, and really defense. The other thing I'll say, I'm not making excuses for the Guardians. I certainly know they're not going to make excuses, and there really are no excuses to be made. But They played a night game in Baltimore on Wednesday night that didn't go long, but they didn't get until late to Kansas City on Thursday or late Wednesday night. And the Royals played a home day game on Wednesday. So now the Royals not to travel, they also played a day game. So they had the night off. They were rested. The Guardians, they look kind of sluggish, to be honest with you. The offense, at the very least. Maybe the defense a little bit too. But they traveled at night. The Royals played a day game and didn't have to travel. And then shout out to Mike Estabrook. Looked like he was calling that game going to community college for umpires. I mean, looked like he had heard of the strike zone before. Someone told him about it at a party once and didn't really look into it. But then he became an umpire and was like, I can do this. Great job. I can't wait for robo-umps to be here, man. That I know it didn't really matter consequentially in the end because Tyler Freeman still got on base. But that 3-0 pitch to him, automatic strike. I hate when umpires do that. All umpires do this. I cannot wait for robo-umps. I cannot wait for the ABS challenge system. I don't care about the human element when it comes to home plate umpiring or balls and strikes. I'm sorry. I care about getting the call right. I care about the game being won by the players, not being impacted by the umpires. That is not the human element. That is just an umpire flaw. Let the players decide the games, not the umpire giving a 3-0 give me strike or deciding the strike zone is here or up here or down here or wide. Terrible strike zone. Terrible job out of you, Mike Estabrook. You should be embarrassed. Do better. What you all should do is join me for the next segment. We're going to talk about Matt Boyd, what the Guardians are doing there, what it means for them in the starting pitching market. We're also going to get into the roster situation. We'll talk about Gavin Williams. We'll talk about the latest mock draft as well as the rest of the series against the Royals on today's Locked On Guardians. It is time. Today's show is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. We know that baseball travel is heating up this time of year. Summer travel is just heating up in general. You want to go to all those cities. You want to go to beaches. You want to go to ballparks. Booking.com is where it's at. I told you the other day, Booking.com was super, super clutch to me. For me, I booked a hotel in Utica outside of Cooperstown for Jim Thomey's Hall of Fame induction a couple years ago in 2018 when there were no options available anywhere near Cooperstown. Got me a nice little hotel. Wasn't the fanciest thing, but it was what I needed. And it was just enough driving distance. Actually, it was nice being outside of Cooperstown with all the craziness. I got to drive in and in. It was a nice drive scenically. And then coming back from my honeymoon last year in Jamaica, had to get a hotel overnight in Miami because we missed a connecting flight because we came in late and had to get a flight the next day. That was a very rough situation. Booking.com made it a lot easier by finding a hotel, landing in Miami at midnight, and I even had a snack bar open. We were traveling all day. Super clutch to have that. I was not a big fan of Miami, but I can tell you Booking.com made it so much easier because the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals, maybe even Kansas City. Book today on Booking.com or the site in the Booking.com app. We know the playoffs are over in a lot of other sports, but baseball is going strong. Obviously, a lot of things to talk about there. This summer, FanDuel is hooking all customers up with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There is something for everyone every day, all summer long. I'm looking at the division winners right now for all of Major League Baseball, just for the Guardians in general. They are the favorite to win the division on FanDuel. So not a real strong bet there, but if you can get a bonus with that, that's a good way to go. They're minus 300 right now. The Royals are all the way back at plus 750. The Twins plus 390, so they're way back. They even got a special bet going on, too, whether or not Stephen Kwan can hit 400. Now, unfortunately, Stephen Kwan is in a quote-unquote slump. He went 1 for 5 on Thursday night with a double. That's a bad game for him. He had a couple of rough at-bats, too, on Wednesday at Baltimore. So if you bet on that one, maybe you want to get the boost. That's some high odds there to hit 400. It is tough. But if any of that sounds fun to you, head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start making the most out of your summer. A lot of baseball to go. Get in on the action. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And as you know, we want to tell you about the Locked On Sports streaming channel. Look, these are local hosts who know your team's the best. They're not doing all the shouting and screaming. They don't say things like, who have you played? I don't know. I don't think you're a good team. If you're watching those TV networks and you're tired of the screaming or the lack of knowledge, switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel with the biggest stories and local opinions on teams that know your team, people that know your team the best, like us. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, and it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, Matt Boyd. That one came out of left field a little bit on Thursday afternoon. First, it was John Heyman, and then I think it was Mark Feinsand from MLB.com. MLB Network jumped in on it, so it looks like it's going to be official, and it looks like it's going to be a major league deal. I thought at first it was a minor league deal, and I hadn't realized that Matt Boyd had Tommy John last summer. Actually, I found the article from a Detroit newspaper. Literally the day it was announced he needed Tommy John was June 27th. So a year from the date it was announced he needed Tommy John, it looks like he's signing with the Guardians. He's back in baseball. It looks like it's going to be a major league deal. The Guardians have not confirmed this. He's got to, pass the medicals because, again, he did have Tommy John. So it looks like it was a full reconstruction surgery, not the brace that's supposed to shave down the time. So he's about 11, 12 months post-op from that, it seems like. We'll see if the Guardians confirm if he passes all the medicals. This was a weird one. I wasn't really expecting that. I honestly had forgotten about Matt Boyd. I just thought he was out of baseball because he wasn't very good last year. He hasn't been really good in a couple years, to be honest with you. The numbers just haven't been fantastic. The last year he was really effective he was effective in short stints in 2022, and he made 15 starts in 21. That wasn't bad, but if you want to look at the last time he had a full good season, it was probably 2018 or 2019, even though the ERA was high both those years. So why are the Guardians signing Matt Boyd? Well, first of all, they need starting pitching. I think you and I both know that. I don't got to sit here and explain that to you like it's trigonometry, and I couldn't because obviously if you're a regular listener to the show, you know I'm bad at math. I never took trigonometry. But interesting flyer here, even on a major league deal. I'll be curious to see if this is a 1-year deal or if it's a one with a player with some sort of option, some sort of incentives. I'm assuming it will be incentive laden, but will there be some sort of vesting option where if he throws X amount of innings the rest of the year, does an option vest for 2025? He's 33, and he's had some good days in the past. He's certainly frustrated the Guardians offense in the past. I do remember those games. I was talking to my one buddy, Rahilio, who's over at Motor City Bengals and the Tigers minor league report. And he was saying that he thinks that Cleveland can fix any pitcher, truthfully. And he thinks that Matthew Boyd is worth fixing. He thinks that the Guardians can do something here with him. Matt Boyd's always had a good slider. If you go and look at the data, he always gets guys out with the slider. Last year, the slider, 30% whiff rate, held batters to a 203 average, 338 slug. The expected numbers were even better than that. The changeup has always been good. He used to frustrate the heck out of Cleveland with that changeup. He's got a sinker, which he wasn't really throwing a whole lot last year, but it was good numbers. I think the Guardians, what they could do here is convince him to ditch the 4C because it's awful. It was awful last year. In 2022, it was actually pretty good, but again, small sample there. Last year, in a bigger sample, it was pretty awful. Maybe it's because he needed Tommy John. I don't know. There's some data here that's interesting, though. Again, the slider and the changeup have always been good for him. Let's see if the sinker can be something he works with a little more. If he's healthy, we'll see there. He was in the 82nd percentile in whiff rate last year, 83rd percentile in chase rate, 71st percentile in hard hit rate. So this is a guy who gets whiffs, who gets guys to chase, who doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. That can be effective. That can be interesting. The thing I don't love is I was looking at last year, and this is what Rahilio pointed out to me, was last year, Matthew Boyd, second time through the order, 5.08 ERA. Batters had a 3.14 WOBA, but they slugged 4.14. Not horrible numbers, but not great. One time through the order, though, 244, 302, 387, a 301 WOBA. A lot better first time through the order. And has always really done well against lefties. Lefties, he had a 344 FIP against them last year. I kind of wonder what the role is going to be here because it seems like he's not a guy you really want going through the order multiple times. I think at the worst, we're talking about a low risk, high reward type option here. If he gets healthy, if he is healthy, he's a year removed from Tommy John. So he should be pitching in games soon. If he hasn't been throwing, simulated games or whatever already, we'll see what happens when the Guardians confirm if he passes the physical. He's going to get probably put on the 60-day injured list right away since it's a major league deal. They won't have to add him to the 40-man roster right away. They can put him on They might have to sign him to the 40-man roster and then DFA someone and then put him in the 60. I'm not sure how that works when you sign someone injured during the season. I guess we'll wait and see on that. But either way, he is going to need to go on a rehab assignment, which will be 30 days. So he won't be an option for the Guardians until the end of July, which is why I think this is pretty much a low-risk, high-reward move, because you're not counting on him to do anything right now, which means you're not replacing anybody with him right now. He needs 30 days to go down and build up his pitch count, and who knows where he'll be. And I don't even know if he'll be a starter. Again, he might be a reliever. He might be a long guy. I'm not really sure. It's worth a risk. It's worth a fly because there is no risk here. I'm sure there's not a whole ton of money being put into this. And the question I know probably people are asking is, well, is this the Guardians' only move for a starting pitcher? Is this going to be it? I don't think so. Again, he's not an option again until next month. This looks like just kind of hedging their bets, because if the starting pitching market doesn't shake out the way they like, if it's too expensive prospect-wise, if they don't meet someone on a match, or maybe they just get a guy who's similar to Matt Boyd, not hurt, but just like a back-end starter, this gives you two options to pick from, and they might need multiple options. My goodness. Carlos Carrasco has been better lately, but you don't know what you're going to get from every time out because he has control issues, unfortunately, at his age, and he doesn't miss bats like he used to. And Logan Allen and Tristan McKenzie have been very, very unreliable. So, your playoff rotation, I can't believe I'm saying this, but your playoff rotation is Bybee, Williams, and Lively right now. Williams isn't even back yet. We'll talk about him in the next segment, but you're hoping it's Williams number 2. Your fourth has to be somebody between Allen, McKenzie, Carrasco, Boyd, or a trade acquisition. Get yourself multiple options. I don't think this will take him out of the trade market at all. I think this is a low-risk, high-reward type signing. But yeah, I could see a higher sinker usage. I could see increased slider or changeup usage. Hopefully reduce four-seamer usage. Even though the four-seamer wasn't terrible in 2022, we'll see what happens here. But this is a pretty interesting signing. I don't think it's anything to get worked up about right now. I think it's low risk, high reward. Can't be a bad thing. Be curious to see what happens when the Guardians announce the move if he passes the physical. All right, we'll talk about the injury and roster situation. Gavin Williams made another rehab start. The Guardians had to make a bunch of moves on Thursday. We'll talk about where all those things are right now, and we'll get into the latest mock from MLB Pipeline on the rest of a Friday edition of Locked On Guardians. You guys already know how much I love the Game Time app. I use this app all the time. And Guardians games, man, they're getting sold out. Last weekend against Toronto, man, there was not a ticket to be found. Game Time is the way to go if you're looking for last-minute tickets. If you're not someone who bought ahead for that series against Toronto, and when they come back home, they're going to be playing the White Sox and the Giants before July 4th weekend. I guarantee that White Sox series will be a lot of people because it's around July 4th. Game Time takes the hassle, takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You already know they've got all-in pricing, so when you go to buy a ticket and you say it's $40, you're not getting the checkout. All of a sudden, it's $80 or $90, and you're like, where did that come from? No, you already definitely know where it is when you get there, so that's always nice to do. And they have the seat view, so you know exactly where you're going to be sitting. Definitely love that. And the Game Time guarantee. 110% of the difference, you find the same ticket in the same row or section for less. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKED on MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Guardians are back in action at Kansas City on Friday night. Again, that first pitch is at 8:10 Eastern. So wherever you are on Friday night, make sure you are tuning in on the SiriusXM app. Search Guardians to find Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus. Call that game. All right, so Guardians made a flurry of moves on Thursday. The biggest bummer to me was Will Brennan. Will Brennan was having a great June. Overall, his numbers are up right now, and he's been a little bit streaky. And I've been waiting for him to kind of hit that moment where he's finally, I don't want to say breaking out, but starting to show who he can really be. And he's got a rib cage inflammation. That really stinks. I hope it's not a long-term injury. It sounds like one of those injuries that could be frustrating and nagging. And you just got to be very careful about it. I'm not sure when it happened. I didn't hear much about it, but he is on the injured list. Jose Tena came up to replace not his spot on the roster. Here's how it ended up shaking out. So they sent Curry down, and they recalled Tena in his spot, and they brought up Darren McCaughan in Will Brennan's spot because McCaughan was just up, right? You need to wait at least 10 days to call. I think it's 10 or 15 for pitchers to call them back up after they've been optioned down, unless they're replacing somebody who was injured. So obviously Curry gave them 2 innings in Baltimore. They sent him back down because they wanted someone fresh in the bullpen for this series for length. And they couldn't do that with McCaughan because he had just been up. But because Brennan went on the injured list, he took his spot, which means Tena came up to take a position player spot and took Curry's spot. So that's why took Tena's up to take that position player spot, but actually took Curry's spot the way it worked out. And people were asking, well, why not Angel Martinez? I guess you wouldn't have been able to bring back a pitcher if that's the case. You wouldn't have been able to bring back McCaughan. I'm not sure how you could have flipped it. Interesting they brought up Tena, though. Tena's not an outfielder, which means with Brennan out, you've got Steeman in right field, which kind of went sideways for a play on Thursday, which ended up being a factor in the game, unfortunately. I guess you could have brought Martinez up that's what it was. So they couldn't have brought McCaughan back because it was 10 days and Martinez it was 10 days. So they wanted to bring a pitcher back and not a position player back on the 10-day rules. They wanted a fresh pitcher. So they added McCaughan for Brennan. If they would have done Martinez, they would have had to do it for Brennan because of the injury, but then they couldn't also bring a pitcher up unless they chose a different pitcher, but they wanted McCaughan. So that's how that move ended up shaking out. We'll see how much Tena plays. I wonder if Tena is up because Arias might play some right field, so that gives Tena the ability to fill in for Arias's role a little bit. And I don't know, right field's gonna be kind of a mess. You've got Steeman who's been hitting. It was one bad play in right field on defense, and it was a tough one, so I'm not going to get down about that. But you've got him, you've got Arias. They put Noel out there on Thursday, which I know he made 1 catch, but I don't really love the idea of Noel in right field because he's not a right fielder. He's just not. He's a first baseman, and I hope he out hits his mistakes. He's struck out his last 3 at-bats, chasing out of the zone. Who would have thought? Anyway, I still think he'll be fine. I'm not going to get down about him. The thing I'm worried about, too, with Curry, though, is this. That was he's already been optioned 3 times, so he's got 2 more times he can be optioned from the rest of July and the rest of the season. I don't know what they're going to do about that. Maybe it won't be a big deal with Williams coming back and Cantillo's pitching again. They're going to trade for someone. Maybe that's part of why Matt Boyd is here too, so you don't have to keep doing that. I don't know. But he is getting awfully close to his 2024 option limit. He's been up and down he's been up and down 2 times. This is the 3rd time he's been optioned down. So he still has 2 more times. And the 6th time he gets exposed to waivers. Gavin Williams looked the best he has looked on a rehab assignment. Only went 4 innings. He got to 82 pitches. He struck out 6. He walked 2. Didn't give up any hard contact. He had a 10-pitch foul at bat that was marred by foul balls. He ended up walking a guy. That really burned him, drove his pitch count up. He didn't get up to 6 innings that the Guardians kind of wanted. Be curious to see what they do with that. He's out of days. 30 days is up for him on rehab. So his next start would have to come in Cleveland, which would be, so today was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They could skip Monday, Tuesday. So Tuesday or Wednesday, Williams could start for Cleveland. We'll see how that lines up for him pitching-wise. But his next start has to come in Cleveland. He is out of time in AAA. But his fastball was fine. He got tons of whiffs on it. It was 96 miles an hour. He threw in some other pitches. He got 82 pitches. I think it's close enough. It looks good. On a minor league update, I saw Dylan DeLucia threw 3 innings for the Arizona Complex League. Good to see. I hope he goes to Lake County and skips Lynchburg. He had a lot of SEC experience. He was really good. No reason to fool around there, and that should push some guys up as well. Latest mock on Pipeline. So I don't know if you guys saw. And Pipeline, again, I think they do a good job with their mocks because they are pretty honest about what they know and what they don't know and what they're thinking, what they're hearing. And they also admit to knowing that the Guardians are super secretive. So again, with mocks, you're really assuming on information that's coming from agents and players and parents and other teams thinking about the Guardians because they don't let anything out. So they're honest about that. So their chances were 35% Bazana, 30% Weatherholt, Caglione 20%, which I thought was interesting. Condon 10, and the rest, the field was Burns and Griffin or Hagen Smith. I think all the pitchers are off the board. I'm more 50-50 on Bazana and Weatherholt, to be honest with you. That's where I'm at. But they've been steady on Bazana. I don't know whether or not that's based on history or what other teams are voting, what other teams are thinking they'll do. I've said it before. The Condon thing to me doesn't really fit them because he has the highest bonus demand. But two ways to look at it are the no buzz means they're really interested and they haven't really been connected, so it's been very quiet, or they aren't interested because of the home road splits and other concerns on the bonus demands. I think he's out because of bonus demands. I don't see Jack Caglione also dropping a bonus demand. I think the only guys you're going to get at the bonuses you want are Bazana and Weatherholt. And to me, it's this. I'm going to say it now. I think Bazana gets 9.5, and I think Weatherholt is 8.5. So it's a difference of $1 million to me is what I see it being. Do they view Bazana as $1 million better than Weatherholt and what they could get at 36 and 48? That's what I think it comes down to me. But there's still a lot of time left between now and the draft. And again, they're not sure. And I think I trust Pipeline more than anybody else. Baseball America, they change their mocks sometimes. They're good. And they do have some insights into organizations, but the Guardians don't let anything out. So again, this is all based on what other teams are saying, what other teams think they're going to do, what agents are saying, what players are saying they're going to do. Weatherholt wants to go 1-1 because it's going to get him the most money. I don't know. Bazana, I think, wants to go 1-1, but he's going to have a slightly higher bonus demand. That's what it's going to come down to. I would put it at 50-50, but I don't know what they know. The Caglione thing to me doesn't really add up. We'll see. I'll be very surprised. I could be wrong. Again, I don't know everything. One thing I want to leave you with today before Monday's episode and have a weekend here, have your expectations changed for the Guardians? So coming into the year, I said they're going to win 85 games. I thought that might have been enough to win the division. They're going to win more, and they should win the division. Is that enough? If you are one of the people that came into the season and you didn't have to make the playoffs, or you weren't really sure how far this team was going to go, maybe you were skeptical, maybe you thought things could break right, but you weren't 100% sure. Now that the Guardians have raced out to this lead, have your expectations changed? Is making the playoffs enough? Do you expect the Guardians to do more now than just make the playoffs, just win the division? Anything can happen when you get in, but have your expectations changed, especially if you were somebody who didn't have them making the playoffs start the year. You weren't sure if they were going to contend. They're contenders now, as they say in the commercial in Major League. So think about that over the weekend. Let me know. If you are someone, maybe you thought they could get to the playoffs, but they weren't going to do much when they got there. Is making the playoffs enough with how this Guardian season has started? Have your expectations raised since then? Think about that for the weekend. Thank you all for tuning in this week. Really appreciate it. Got a couple more solo episodes till Jeff is back working on a guest. We'll see when that happens. But until then, enjoy your weekend. Go Guardians, go. Win this series in Kansas City.